Hello everyone, welcome to the stream today. We are back at it this week. We have, I guess it's week 19 of the mini paint challenge. We have a really exciting collab this week. I have healed up all from my, oh, my husband is turning on some stuff. Oh, okay, on the auto setting, good. So my laptop runs well. I have a collab this week with actually a Jewish Canadian artist, so we are going to do something, and it's perfect timing because Passover is right now for all of the Jewish community. So we've got a really fun collab. So if you're new here, I am Megan, and here are the side. This is the side. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and if you do the challenge today, just make sure to tag me at Megan Josol Art, and then use the hashtag mini paint challenge, and then I'll be able to see all of your creations that you make. So this week we've got a collab with Edie, and she's got Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And I have the next scene. So I actually ended up making this loaf here. So this is my photo. And she ended up doing a clay version of it. So this is her little clay version that she did. She has more pictures up on her Instagram and Facebook of her little clay version, but this is called challah bread, and it's a traditional bread that is normally served on like different occasions other than Passover. So they don't actually eat any bread during Passover, but the cool thing is, and I talked about this in my reel the other day, they actually serve like a key-shaped challah bread the first Saturday after Passover. So I tried my hand at making a key-shaped one too, so that is in my reel that I just made. And so I edited that first photo here, and I turned it into this because I thought it would be nice to have the blue and white background, because normally the Jewish flag has blue and white on it. So I thought it would kind of tie everything together. So that's the reference photo that we're going to be working on today. I'm going to head over to my mixing scene now, and we can start color mixing because we have a lot of little details to add to this one today. So I want to get right into mixing so we have enough time. So I think I'll start with maybe some of the blue in the background. I've got my little handy arrow here. I will start with some of the blue and the white in the background. Then we'll move into some of the colors here. So let's select what our palette is going to be today. I think I would like to go with alizarin crimson. That'll be nice for the bread. And then I'm going to go with cadmium lemon. I feel like we could do a little bit of like burnt sienna in there too, because that looks really nice for like the bread color. And then I'm also going to use a warm white and then titanium white as well for like our whites today. And then what else should we add? So we definitely want, I would say, ultramarine blue. I feel like phthalo blue might be kind of nice too for the blue in the cloths that we've got going. So maybe we'll do that. I think we'll do a little bit of cerulean blue hue. And I'm trying to decide. I feel like the Indian yellow might actually be nice in the bread as well. I'm trying to decide if I want any their colors. I want to keep it kind of simple. I don't want to go too crazy with the colors, so I think I'll keep it at that. So I will name out the colors again as I'm putting them on my palette. So I'll start with titanium white. So nice to be back after like that eye infection. I really did miss painting a lot. This one's titanium white. But I went to the eye doctor's yesterday and she cleared me. She said the infection's gone, so I can get back to painting again with you guys, which is nice. The next color I'm going to put on my palette is warm white. I guess I should try not to add too much paint because we are doing a mini painting. And then we will go next with alizarin crimson, which is a nice deep red. I find it's like one of my favorite primary colors. It's a pretty classic color. I feel like a lot of artists use alizarin crimson. And then we are going to put some Indian yellow on the palette as well. It's got kind of more of like an orangish kind of tint, and it's very transparent. So it's good for kind of like glazing over the top of the other colors. I'm going to use some cadmium lemon. That'll be really nice in the bun colors as well. And then I think I actually want to put a little bit of sap green on the palette as well, just to desaturate some of the colors if we need it.
What's after alizarin crimson again?
That one is Indian yellow. My husband is putting all of the colors in the description, so if you're watching the video back, you can look in the description and all the colors will be there. And then the next color we'll put on the palette is cerulean blue hue. And then we'll also put, I don't normally use phthalo blue very often, but it does have a nice transparent nature to it, so I will put that on as well, and we can maybe do a little bit at the end to add a little extra darkness into the shadow colors on the fabric. I think it would be really nice. And then ultramarine blue is my other primary color that I really love using. It makes some really nice purples when you mix it with alizarin crimson. It's my favorite way to do the darks. And then we are going to put some burnt sienna on here as well. And then I think we will be able to start mixing after that. Like I said, I think we'll go and mix the blues maybe first. Just to see what we got there. That one's sap green. It's probably on the list already. I use sap green a lot. Okay. Okay, you put them in there for me. Thank you. So my husband put them in there for us. I'm gonna grab up my reference photo now. There we go. Blow it up nice and big. I should mention I have all of the, if you join any of the painting challenges on my website, if you go to the mini paint challenge link in my YouTube bio, click there, you can actually scroll down. There's a little reference photo button and you scroll down on the page on my website, and you can download all of the reference images in high quality, so then you can blow them up on your computer, and it makes it a little bit easier than like trying to take a screenshot like on Instagram and stuff. Just wanted to make the reference photos a little bit nicer to use for you guys. And then, so we're gonna do the blue. I don't think I can update the description. Yeah, you can, I think, on, or maybe not. Maybe after the stream. That's okay. Might be hard to on mobile. Okay, we are gonna start with the dark blue in, I'm gonna use my arrow. Some of the dark blues in the back of the fabric here and in the darker kind of creases. So I'm gonna start with ultramarine blue. And what you wanna do when you first start painting is you wanna take this color and you just wanna compare it to what it looks like on the screen. And you'll notice right away that this is pretty close, but we might want to add a little bit of alizarin crimson to make it a little bit more purpley. And this is my favorite kind of way to make that darker color. I'm going to lean this one more on the blue side rather than the red side, just so it blends really nicely. So there we go. That gives us like a nice kind of like starting point. And we're gonna take some of this off. I'm gonna leave a little bit on the palette, but we're gonna use that as our dark color there. And then I'm gonna grab a little bit more ultramarine blue. And what we're gonna slowly do is we're going to transition this with a little bit of titanium white. Just a little bit, don't add too much because it'll really lighten it. We don't want it lightened too much. Let's see if that's closer to what we want. Still kind of want that deep blue, but not quite as dark as this one. I'm going to take a little bit of this, put it on my palette. So we're slowly just building up transition colors from those dark areas to the lighter areas. And I find, especially when you're starting to begin painting, it's really nice to mix beforehand. I mean, I still like mixing beforehand because I just love kind of sitting down and like doing all the colors beforehand, especially if you're using oil paints. They're not going to dry like an acrylic would. You actually can sit down and like mix the colors beforehand, which is nice. So now we're going to kind of lighten this a bit. I'm going to add some cerulean blue hue to it, because you can see as it gets into the brighter areas, it actually has a bit of that cerulean blue color to it. I'm going to add a little bit of titanium white to that, just to lighten it a little bit more. I want this pretty saturated though, so I don't want to add too much white. That's a pretty nice color. I'm going to put a little bit on there. Nice transition. I'm going to add a little bit more of the titanium white, a little bit more cerulean blue hue. Slowly work our way from that darker blue to the cerulean blue, just for those lighter areas. A little bit more titanium white. There we go, we're getting some of that lighter color now. Okay, so we're gonna take that color and just hold it up to the reference image and see kind of how close it is to some of those areas. And you'll see that's a little bit different from that other color we made. We're gonna go here, add a little bit more cerulean blue, a little bit more ultramarine blue, or cerulean blue this time. There we go. Just trying to get a little bit more color on there. Okay. And then titanium white there. Hello, how's it going? Slowly getting these colors mixed today. How's your day going? Okay, let me see how close that color is. So we're gonna actually want to lighten that a little bit because we're going for, here I can use my arrows. So we're going for some of these lighter colors now into the blue, and we're trying to just slowly create that transition. We want lots of transition colors so we're not like mixing a ton on our piece of paper or on our canvas, whatever you are painting on. Mine's technically, I guess, canvas paper that I like painting on. I actually get a lot of questions on what paper that I paint on. Maybe I will show you guys briefly. Oh, it's over there, never mind. I use the Archie's oil painting paper. It's a canvas paper. It's like a cotton paper. Math exam tomorrow. Do you like math? I actually really enjoyed math when I was in school. Math is one of my fave subjects. I'm actually going to go a little bit more on the ultramarine side and add a little bit more ultramarine to that. It'll give it kind of like a purpley tone to it. Yeah, April is exam time. It sure is. I actually have some tests I have to do too. Not an exam though. I'm doing some online courses right now, so it's kind of like at your own pace, but I want to finish it in like the 6 months that they gave me, so I'm trying to finish up some of the course. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more titanium white. I don't really like it. Just moved to India. It's way harder here. Yeah, I guess depending on where you're doing it, it might be really challenging. Because my husband, you said like the schooling where you grew up outside of Canada just like was a lot harder, right? You guys learned a lot faster.
Just different.
Just different. Because when you moved to Canada, you said you were kind of like, felt like you were ahead, right?
Yeah. I think it's potentially because we have two less years of elementary and high school in the Philippines, so we speed through the curriculum a little faster.
You just go through it quicker. I didn't know that. You have 2 less years of elementary and 2 less years of high school in the Philippines?
No, combined.
Oh, combined. Okay.
We only go up to grade 6 there.
Oh, it only goes up to grade 6.
And then
Okay.
high school starts.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very different. Very different. But yeah, I enjoyed math, but maybe it depends on what kind of math too. There's definitely some math that, I mean, I could do, but I didn't enjoy it that much. It's the basic math that I struggle with. I'm
Well, no. Sounds like they have a grade 11 and 12 there, at least now.
Oh, they do now?
I don't know if they're...
Maybe not back then when you were going to school. Back in the day. Okay, let's check that color. Just slowly mixing a lighter color. Okay. That should be nice. I kind of want a slightly lighter one too. More titanium white, just like the brightest areas with just a little bit of the blue in it. So it's more like a whitish blue. Yeah, I think that's closer to what we want for those lighter kind of highlight areas. Okay. Okay, try to scrape some of this paint off. Put it over here so it doesn't go to waste. And then I'm gonna just clean off this area so then we can start mixing. I guess we could do the white next within the blue areas and kind of the shadow areas. So the next thing we can do, I'll use my arrow, we'll kind of work on some of these like shadows in the white and this white color too. So, because if you hold up titanium white, it's probably going to be way too bright and we're going to actually have to tone that down quite a bit. And I think the warm white will be a little too warm. It looks more like a bluish white, yeah. So our base is definitely going to be titanium white. I'm going to start with that anyway. We're going to work from there. I want to finish my online painting classes, but I flew to Alaska and I couldn't bring my paint for school. No info for Flashpoint. Oh, that's hard. I guess it's hard to fly with some like paints and stuff too. But that's cool that you're in Alaska. We're probably going not up to Alaska, but up to the Canadian part over there in the Yukon in August. It's nice up there. Really like the northern parts of the country. It's really pretty. Probably very similar in the Yukon that it is to Alaska as well. Super cold, but super beautiful. Just trying to pick up a little bit of the blue that was still on here just to see how close we can kind of, I don't want to change the color too much. We're definitely going to add, I brought all my Gamblin paints, so nothing. Solvent, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I really love Gamblin paints, is they don't add any like solvents to their paints. And I paint solvent free, so I just use a little bit of linseed oil. I actually don't mind their like solvent-free gel as well. Like I use the solvent-free gel sometimes. Not as often though. I find myself just like normally just using it as a paint. Yukon is very different in my opinion than Alaska. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I will have to visit Alaska at some point. Because I have never visited Alaska, so it's not like I can really compare it. All I know is they're kind of similar region. I did, but I fell in love with solvents. Okay. Yeah, some people enjoy using solvents. I find I just like don't want to risk it because there's like a lot of risks around using solvents. Also the fumes and stuff. I have a very big sensitivity to any sort of smell, so I try to avoid that. Where will you be in the Yukon? I have a soft spot for it after road tripping there last year. Great to see your painting in action. Hey, how's it going? So I actually normally travel to Whitehorse. Last year we went and we did a camping trip with my friend. My friend lives up there, so we normally go and visit her for like, you know, like 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes a month. And we'll just like hang out and like do camping trips. So last we actually went to like the northern part of BC. So we drove from Whitehorse, and she lives in Marsh Lake now, so kind of like an hour outside of Whitehorse, 45 minutes. And so we drove from Whitehorse to Marsh Lake, and then from Marsh Lake, after spending time there for a bit, we where was it in the Yukon that we went, hun? Or in BC, yeah, Atlin, BC. So we enjoyed going to Atlin, BC, which was super fun. And we did camping at McDonald Lake there. Oh my gosh, the trail to get there was ridiculous though. We had to take like the off-roading vehicles onto like the trail there because it was so bumpy. And so we went in there. It was like quite a bit of off-roading to get to the campsite, but then we enjoyed like camping and stuff there. Yeah, I really like the Yukon. We've also like went up a little bit north too, done like camping at like Fox Lake and stuff too. But yeah, we've been going up there for quite a few years now, which is nice. I'm gonna add a little bit of ultramarine blue to this. I'm gonna kind of like add a little bit of almost bluey purplish to this. But yeah, the Yukon's really fun. I've been Winnipeg to Alaska a few times and Vancouver up many times. Okay. Yeah, we did the trip the one year. I don't know if I'd ever drive up there again, but like yeah, we had a bunch of off-roading vehicles in the Yukon. It's like a thing. Most people have like extra vehicles for like off-roading and stuff. So they had like 3 off-roading vehicles and we all kind of went off-roading. But yeah, yeah, I did the trip up to the Yukon with my husband, and when our son, I don't know why we ended up like wanting to drive with a 5-month-old up to the Yukon from Vancouver Island, but we did it. We drove all the way from Vancouver Island, crossed the ferries, went all the way up. We didn't do the Alaskan highway. We actually did like New Hazelton direction, if you know where that is. And then stayed in like New Hazelton, and we did like a 10-hour drive that one day between New Hazelton and like Watson Lake area. Super beautiful though. There's absolutely nothing for miles and miles and miles. So, okay, that's getting closer to the color. Just adding a little bit of the ultramarine blue helped with that white. But yeah, really nice. All of those areas are just so pretty, so I'm excited to go up again this summer. I think I don't know where they're going camping this summer, but there's normally, so like in the Yukon, there's like the Yukon like kind of camping weekend in August, Yukon holiday, so everyone goes camping. Yeah, the Cassier Highway, the other side. What's this painting? So I am doing a collab. Actually, Edie is in the chat right now. We are doing challah bread, and I actually baked this one myself, and then I kind of photoshopped a little bit of the blue and white cloth in the background on it because I wanted to have something that was similar to like the Jewish flag in the background because I thought it would kind of go with the theme. So that's what we're doing today. Okay, so we got the white. Now we have to make a slightly darker kind of color to go with this as well. But yeah, I am never heard what a challah is. Yay! I know I've been practicing my pronunciation because I had no clue how to pronounce that before. And I'm working on it. I struggle with the CH sound at the start, the challah. But I think I'm doing pretty good. Okay, we're gonna make this a little bit darker by adding a bit of sap green to it. So we're gonna make that darker tone. Yeah, we passed by Dease Lake. Yeah, it was like in that area there. And a bit of the ultramarine blue as well. Where did we stay? We stayed in, there was one lake that we stayed at because we did 4 days and 3 nights to drive up there. Yeah. It's like an Arabic word. Oh, okay. I don't know much about the Arabic language, but yeah, my husband's been trying to teach me like Tagalog words, and they have a lot of like interesting sounds as well. And so I find it's so hard when you like don't grow up like making those sounds with your mouth. And I feel like I have a pretty strong, maybe like Canadian accent. So it's very hard to pronounce some of those words. I can do French a little bit, but I'm not very fluent in French either. I only took French up until grade 9 here in Canada. I think I made that too blue, so I actually want to add a little bit of green to that. I'm gonna make the shadows a little bit more red as well. We're kind of just like adding a bit of green and blue and a little bit of red to this until we get kind of the desired color that we want for those shadow areas. Kind of just making it gray. Want it more of like a kind of, I don't want it as green, I don't think. Yeah, I want it more blue. We'll see if we can get it to the color we want. Growing up in northern Minnesota, that people from the city, you're from Canada. Oh my gosh. I mean, you guys are like right on the border there, right? So looked that up last night. So close enough. You probably have a lot of like similarities, like if you're close to the border, to like some of the Canadian kind of things that we do as well. It's like a little, like it's close to what I want. Just trying to like compare the color right now. I'm trying to avoid taking out any sort of black because I want to have like more color in it. I think I'm gonna go with this because it's got like a nice like gray blue kind of color, and I think that's, I'm gonna keep a little bit on there so we can still go down from that. I'm gonna make that a little bit darker, and that'll be kind of like our shadow color. And then I'm gonna add a bit of green. Oh, not too much green. I'm gonna make that darker kind of shadow area. 45 minutes from Canada. Yeah, so pretty close. I grew up in Huron County in Ontario, so country. Grew up in farmland. It's very interesting because like now living in a city, or I guess we live in the suburbs of Victoria and Vancouver Island, which actually isn't like a massive city or anything, but like this is massive compared to where I grew up. Some of the towns I grew up in were like only a few thousand people. So they were very tiny, the towns that I grew up in. It's a very big shock moving to a city, but I like it. I do enjoy it more than the smaller towns, so I am glad that I moved away. And I feel like the culture in some of the small towns in Ontario aren't my favorite, so I didn't realize that they weren't my favorite until I moved away. And then I'm like, wow, I don't really want to go back. Oh, I know where that is. Yeah, I grew up like mostly along Lake Huron, I guess. We're kind of like where I grew up. So if you know where Lake Huron is. But yeah, I'm gonna grab some more ultramarine blue. A few thousand. I grew up in a population of 60. Oh my gosh, that's so tiny. I love that. Yeah, I don't know what the communities. A few of them were like bigger. Like I grew up in so Kincardine. I guess Kincardin's still not like a very big town. It's a bit bigger than some of the other communities though. And I grew up in Goderich, Ontario, and then Seaforth, and then Stratford, Ontario. Stratford's a little bit bigger as well. That was like the biggest town that I grew up in. As soon as I say Stratford, everyone's like, Justin Bieber. Yes, I did go to school with him. But yeah, some interesting towns over there. Been to Stratford as a kid. Yeah, it's a nice community. I actually like living there. It was pretty nice. I still have some friends that live in Stratford there. Also used to go to Grand Bend a lot. That was like the beach town around us. A lot of people went there for like camping and like going to the beach. Kind of going on the purple end for this one, so I'm kind of just mixing more alizarin crimson. But I added a little bit of sap green to just desaturate it a bit, and that's for the shadow color. So I'm going to use that as another shadow color. And then I'm also going to probably use some of this darker color for the shadows. Let me grab my little arrow and move it around. So some of these shadows kind of near the blue, because I'm going to do a bluish shadow in that area. And there's a bit of a blue shadow over here as well. So we're just going to reuse some of these colors for those darker parts. But yeah, I grew up all over the place. So we moved a lot as a kid. But mostly in Huron County, Perth County kind of area. Okay, now I'm going to clean this off so then we can start mixing colors for the actual bread part. I want to mix the colors for the challah bread because it's so pretty. I was actually like really impressed. This was my first time making the challah bread, and I I feel like it turned out actually really good. I'm hoping that I can replicate the recipe next time because everyone liked it. Okay, so we're gonna go with, I said that I might want to use a little bit of burnt sienna because I feel like it's already like a pre-mixed color that'll be really nice. But we can start with kind of like a reddish color as well. I think this is like a good starting point for what we want. And it's got that like really nice earthy tone to it. Like that's the perfect color for those darker areas. And then we can kind of just lighten this. Like, I really like how that looks. We can darken this a little bit and we can lighten it. So I'm gonna put a little bit back. We'll darken it with a little bit of ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. We'll go on that purple end again. A little bit more ultramarine blue. And that's going to be the darkest part of the bun. Just kind of almost make it like a purpley brown. Let's see. Yeah, that'll be great for the darker areas. So I'm going to put all of the bun colors kind of just in one line here. Now I'm going to take more of that. Start out with a decent amount of this color here. Honestly, I'm going to take a little bit of this and just put it to the side because I really like how it is already. And that's burnt sienna. The other way I really love using burnt sienna is for like avocado pits. It matches the color of the middle of an avocado perfectly. It's one of those colors you don't have to do too much to it. So if we want to go into some of these lighter areas, we are gonna probably have to add a little bit of that orangish tint to it. So to make this orange, we can add a little bit of yellow, because this has a lot of reds in it already. By adding the lemon yellow, we'll slowly get that orange tint coming out. I want to go a little bit lighter than that. The other thing we could do is add a little bit of the transparent pigment, but I don't want to make it too transparent. I might just add a little bit of the Indian yellow over top of the other colors if we want to add a bit of stuff at the end, because it is a transparent pigment. It'll add a little bit of extra shine. Okay, let's see. Just adding the lemon yellow. That's giving us more of the color that we want. So I'm going to put a little bit of that there. I'm going to keep some on my knife still, and we're going to add even more of this lemon yellow. Work our way into those lighter tones. Really got to make a lot of transition colors, because I find it helps as we're painting to already have these transition colors there. Also, I think me and my husband decided we're going to get a new webcam for the main painting scene too. Because the color, like, we have tried doing everything we can to like change the color for the camera that we did buy, and it's just like not the colors that we want. So I think we'll buy a separate one, because I want the colors to be a bit more accurate. And I've tried to reset the colors as much as I can, and it just is not working out. Okay. Current web does a bit of post. Yeah, it does. It does like post-processing to like enhance the color, but like it kind of like tints it more on the blue side, and I've tried to adjust like the Kelvins, and it's still, it's just, the blues won't go away. So it's frustrating, because I want the colors to be like decently accurate for you guys for the painting. So I'm making that, I need a little bit more yellow. Okay, I think all webcams do that now though. I mean, we could look for some reviews online. If you guys have any suggestions for webcams, just want something that's more accurate. And I think what's frustrating too is like my screen and stuff. Like I spent the money to calibrate like my screen properly and stuff. So like I know the colors do not look good because my screen is calibrated. So it's like not my screen. It's definitely just the camera. And I've had some of you guys say that the colors are off as well too, so it's definitely not just me. And I want to fix that for you guys, because I want like a nicer experience for the streams, and I want them to be like good quality. But we're learning as we go. That's the thing with the stream. I feel like they'll like slowly get better over time, and hopefully you guys will have a better experience. It's one thing that I really enjoyed doing is like setting up the stream and like all of the different like lighting gears and like cameras. It's really fun to learn about different technologies and like slowly improve the stream in different ways. Set a little bit of this to the side. I'm gonna get a decent amount of yellow in this one. Let's see how close that is. Oh, such a nice like mustardy yellow. I love that. Okay, we will definitely put that there. And then we've kind of like, it goes a little bit more yellow, but then it starts to go, like I feel like we could add a little bit of warm white to it, into those lighter areas. Here, let me use my mouse. Into some of these lighter areas. So where my little arrow is there, there's almost kind of like white, like a yellowish white there. So that's what I'm going for. I'm gonna add a little bit more of this. Okay, let's see. That's a little bit closer, and then we definitely want to have like quite a bit more white for this next one. So we're going to go into the warm white. The warm white is very close. I want to add a little bit of the yellow that's just left on the palette here. But mostly just use the warm white. Really enjoyed using warm white. It's a newer color to my palette. I feel like it's nice to have two options for the white color. It's maybe hard to see on there. You can kind of see. You can see that this one's a little bit warmer and this one's got more of like a cool like bluish tint to it. This definitely has more of like the reds and yellows in it there. So it's just nice to kind of like be like, oh, do I want this to be like more warm or do you want it a little bit more cool? Just for the starting color. So okay, I feel like that's like pretty good bun color there. I do want the highlight, so we have this highlight in here in the bun. I would say it's more of like a bluish highlight, so we might actually be able to use just a little bit of this white that we made. It looks very, very similar to that bluish white, so I think we'll probably use that, and that's the color we're going to be using for the background anyway, so no need to mix up another color if we already have that nice white. And then for the sesame seeds, I was kind of thinking I'll do it similar to this one that we mixed down here at the bottom. Oh, it's like almost off the palette. Hopefully that's okay in the next slide. Yeah, I think we'll start with that just so we can get painting. So I will switch over to the paint scene right there. And I'm going to get my camera. I'm going to move it over here so you guys can see me over there. Let me just go behind the camera a little bit and get that all situated. And I'm just going to situate my phone as well for video. I go behind and move this. You can see the cat tree now and the massive amount of dishes I have to put away. There we go. Did I do that okay? It's a little crooked. Oh, I definitely clicked on something. My face is off now. There we go. I will adjust it back here so I don't click on it. There we go. Okay. I think that'll be good. So then we have that. And I hopefully have this bright enough. You guys can see everything. Trying to make sure it's all bright enough. I was saying the other day on the live stream that I really have to edit some more time-lapse videos because I haven't edited a time-lapse video in the last couple weeks because of my eye infection, and now like I have like tons of time-lapse videos that I have ready to just like put the finishing touches on because they're all like color graded and stuff for you guys. I just have to make time to actually like sit down and spend a few hours just like editing them now. So what I'm gonna do is we will start out probably with, I like to start out with a slightly bigger brush, so probably use something like this. This is a number 2 flat brush. You can use any brush. I've been trying out the Seneca brushes. And so that's been new for me, but I like them so far. They clean up really well. Now I've got to warm up my eraser. So I'm just going to use my little gummy eraser. Kneaded eraser. This one's just like the Faber-Castell kneaded eraser. Just to take off a little bit of the graphite. Gonna start my, don't want to forget to start the time lapse because I've got like the time lapse camera here too. I'm still like just stacking the webcams on top of each other. Got a webcam and then my camera and then my phone like over here. Feels like crazy to have all the cameras set up like this. Okay. I'm just gonna take the eraser and I'm just dabbing it off lightly. Some people also, like if you're doing like a bigger surface with the reference photo, some people like to use like acrylic pens to do their sketches as well. But I find it's nice to be able to like erase things if needed. This just takes off a bit so we can still see the sketch and use it as like a guideline, but the sketch that was just there for like a basic guideline, so we kind of know where to put the paint in. I really don't go crazy with the sketch when I'm painting because I don't want any of the graphite really mixing with the paints, because especially with like the lighter pigments like the yellows, I find, especially like the transparent ones too, like they won't cover the graphite or they'll like mix in and make the colors a little bit muddy. So I'm gonna start out with, I think, the bread, because I just want to start out with the bread. Yeah, I think we'll start out with the bread. So I'm gonna put in the darker tones. So I'm gonna start out with this. Can we see every color? Okay. I should maybe move it up a little bit for you guys. Just make sure you can see it okay. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna start out with the darker color here. And this is always the fun part. Where do we want to start the first brush stroke? Maybe here. That one in there. This bun is actually kind of tiny, so I could have started out with a slightly smaller one, but these brushes are also new, so they have still nice tips on them. And I'm just kind of almost like outlining some of these darker areas here. I like to start from dark and then go lighter, depending on the colors, but these are like nice transition colors, so they shouldn't get too muddy into those lighter areas. That's all we're doing at this point, is just adding in those dark areas. At this point you can like put on some music if you want and just like hang out. And if you have any questions, if you're watching the stream back, just don't feel free to ask any of your questions in the comment section. Or if I'm not explaining something very well, then just let me know so then I can do better next time as well. I want to always try to explain things the best that I can. It's funny because everyone always asks me like where I learned this technique, and I just like made it up on my own. I know a little bit of like basic, I guess, not rules, but I guess kind of rules per se about like oils and like how to use them. But like once you understand like the safety and kind of the basics around oil paints, you can kind of just do whatever you want. You don't have to follow really any instruction if you don't want to, especially if you're looking to do something specific. There was just like no one doing the type and like style that I wanted to do, so I just made it up as I went. And it seemed to work out in the end. It took me a few years to kind of slowly get a style that I actually enjoyed doing, but now I just do this. It's almost like we're like drawing on scales or something right now. It looks kind of cool. Just outlining all of the middle sections. You can always add some more darker bits kind of in the end as well. We need to darken up certain areas after we add some of the lighter colors, but for now we're just kind of getting the base of them done. Okay, now we're gonna I'm gonna grab my linseed oil too. I have just a little jar of plain linseed oil. I'm gonna take some of that, and I like to use it to clean off my brush a little bit in between colors. Actually thinking like maybe I should use a slightly smaller one because I have like, this is a 0 flat brush, so it's a little bit smaller than the 2. We were using the 2 before, so I find it's a little bit easier to control. I try to use the bigger brush if we can, but did I move that a little bit? There we go. Try not to shake it too much. Okay. We're gonna go into the second color that we made for the bread. And now we're going to, so the darker parts are kind of in the middle section, and then it gets lighter on the outsides. So we're just putting that in the middle. And this is just the plain burnt sienna. Gonna leave a little room for those highlights too, kind of on the edges. I don't want to cover up those highlight areas too much. Okay, got kind of those base layers down. Go into the next color here. Slowly bring in some of this other color. And we will trying to add more of the kind of darker colors to this edge because this is where the shadow is. So we want this side to be a little bit darker than this side. The sun is light is coming in from the opposite angle. So we're always paying attention to where the light is coming from when you're painting. Kind of want to establish that at the start of your painting. And work from there. And if you're struggling with the mini paintings that are this tiny, it actually is easier to paint on a slightly bigger surface too. So you could, I like to paint on like a 6x6 size as well. That might be a good place to start as well if you're struggling with these 3x3 sizes. That's what I normally like to paint on. The smaller it gets, I guess the harder it gets too. You could paint even smaller too if you want a challenge. I've always been interested in painting on like really little things though. I used to be a nail technician in a salon. Did that for a little bit. And I think that's why I also always like gravitated towards like very small designs. I like doing like clay stuff too. I bought some polymer clay for the first time in like a while, a few months ago. So I'll play with that the odd time. I like to make my own like earrings and stuff. I feel like that would be fun. Little food earrings of like all of my favorite foods. Okay, so I think we got enough dark colors on there. I'm gonna start adding some of the light colors. I was also a nail tech for 10 years. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I enjoyed doing it. I didn't do it for super long. I did it for probably less than a year, honestly. Just kind of like, I did the training, I got a job, ended up getting fired from that job, and then I did some clients like at my home, and then I just was like, you know what, I don't really like doing this that much. Not on other people's nails. Just like wasn't for me. I enjoy doing art, and I think that's when I was kind of like, yeah, I enjoy doing like my own art, but not so much on like other people. It's so different. It's a very, I mean, it felt good though. Like I enjoyed like all my clients and stuff and all of the chats and stuff, but it's definitely hard on your body to do it for a really long time. It takes a lot out of you. I've made a small business out of it, sure. Yeah, and we talked about that too. Could have made a small business out of like the nail stuff, and I did actually like get a business license and, you know, tried to kind of start my own thing, but after doing friends and family's nails, just kind of, you know, for free or for fun for a while, I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to actually like get a ton of like clients and do this full time. And then we had our son, and I've been a stay-at-home mom for the last like 8 years. And then in the last like year and a bit, I started this business because our son, he is in school now, since he is old enough for that. And yeah, I just figured I wanted to do something a little bit different this time. But I'm glad I started this business, and just like, I mean, right now it's technically a business and I make some money from it, but hopefully the social media will pay off in the end at some point, right? That's the hope. Just something I'm learning right now. It's a pretty big learning curve, I feel like, when it comes to social media. It is. I quit when I couldn't see well enough to do nail art anymore. Yeah, it's really hard on like your eyes, and I know like some nail techs like I worked with, they ended up having like wrist problems, a lot of like joint issues. One got like wrist surgery. So it's definitely hard on the body. It's kind of like being, you know, like a massage therapist. You can only do it for so long because you're just working all the time. It's like day in, day out, like especially if you have like a lot of clients, right? It's really hard. So I can see why, nail techs charge so much. Like you can only do it for so many years and then it kind of drains on your body after a while. You can make good money doing it though. I definitely have some friends that like still do it and they make good money. Some of them like open up their like own salons and stuff. And it is hard work in the end. I feel like being an artist and like just doing this as I can is a little bit more sustainable for me, especially as a stay-at-home mom too, because that's like my full-time job right now is being a mom. This is kind of just like my little side hustle, or I guess hobby at this point. I'm really not even treating it like a business because I want to enjoy it for a really long time. Like I'm not in it for the money, you know what I mean? I love painting and I want to build a community over time, and at some point if it's profitable that would be nice obviously, but I just like want to have like an outlet for my art and the things that I enjoy doing. And I want to be able to make it like sustainable over the long term, so I don't want to like go too crazy with this business and then like burn myself out, right? And I think when I started, I was like I want to do everything. And now I'm definitely like, no, I need to make this like super sustainable. So the color's slowly coming together as we get down in those colors. So we're gonna go into this more yellowish color now. This is the nice yellowy color right near this area. I'm trying to leave some areas for the white as well for the little highlights. I'm gonna add some highlights into some of those. How you doing over there, hun? Husband's reading over there, trying to finish his book. I have to return it today. Okay. Slowly getting that there. You guys can see that okay? Yeah, you can see it. The colors aren't too bad right now on the screen, so that's ideal. Slowly working these colors into this area here. many. I'm gonna go back into this like more orangish color. Just gonna add a little bit of that in some of the areas. Maybe this color here. Didn't use a lot of this color. You'll see some of those kind of like darker tones too, kind of like disappear a bit, so we'll have to add a bit of those back in a little bit more at the end. But it's nice to establish where the darks and stuff are going to be, so you always want to put them in. But at least we're getting kind of like that base layer down. That's the main part right now, is just getting that like base layer of color in and like establishing where everything will be, because I find when you take your time with this part, it really helps as you're adding the details at the end, because you've got a really nice good layer to start out with. It's kind of like our little like underpainting. Okay. I'm gonna grab this because we had it in the dark color already. And we're gonna darken some of these areas on the edges. And we're just dabbing it on. I'm trying to kind of almost like add texture with the paint a little bit, but you're not wanting to add too much paint because then you still have to add the little sesame seeds on top. So we want to leave enough room that we can kind of have the sesame seeds on top and it's not going to blend too much. It's all about kind of like building up the colors as we go over. And the colors in the bun will really pop quite a bit once we add the background in as well. I love that when you add the background in and then everything kind of starts to come together and like pop a bit more. Of course, we chose a slightly challenging background today, but I like doing that so then we can learn a little bit from challenging backgrounds. Because I know it can be like intimidating to approach something like this, especially with fabric and all of the different textures and stuff, especially like in the bread. You can kind of see like in this area of the bread there's also highlights, but we're going to add those at the end. You kind of want to save the highlighting parts for the end portion. So try to resist adding adding too much of that. I'm gonna add a little bit of texture. I used like a date syrup on the top of the bread, which gave it like a really nice kind of color as I was spreading it on. Normally I use maple syrup, but Edie recommended the date syrup because that's like kind of more traditional to baking this type of bread, and I am really impressed with it. I like the date syrup. I would definitely use it on other breads too. I feel like it added really nice flavor to it as well. But then again, I love anything with dates in it, so if you like dates, you definitely will like the date syrup. Go. Just making sure over here. And now we can start adding in some of those lighter colors. So I'm gonna work into some of these like lighter colors and like the creases. Probably should move my arrow more to show you where I'm working. Kind of just working on the whole loaf right now. Just one color at a time, just like slowly putting that one color everywhere, just so you don't have to clean off your brush as much. Now I'm just dipping it into the oil. You can kind of see what I'm doing there. Dipping the brush into the linseed oil. Just taking off some of the pigment. Okay, so we're gonna go to this yellowish white color now. Add a little bit of this. A very, very small amount of this. Don't put too much. And then still want to leave a little bit of room for the white that I'm going to use as well, the warm white. I'm going to add that in. That'll be our next color, so I'm just going to clean off the yellowish white, so we can start with the warm white. Okay, now we're gonna go into some of these creases here. Okay. Add a little bit more to these side areas here. We don't need to clean up the edges too much because we are gonna like add a background to it. So we'll clean up those a little bit more with the background as well. Slowly coming along here. Go. Okay. Looking more like bread now, right?
Yeah. It looks darker, but I'm sure you'll cover some of that up.
Yeah, I think that's just the screen. Is this oil or acrylic? I'm using oil paints for this. Just oil paints and some linseed oil to clean off my brushes in between colors. I do solvent-free oil painting, so it's a little bit different than regular oil painting. But I'm just slowly adding the colors in there. I'm going to slowly add a little bit more of that yellowish color and dab that into some of these areas here. Just to lighten those areas up just a little bit. Like I said, I think I'll probably take the pure Indian yellow as well and kind of like dab that in to just add a little bit more of that color back in. Thank you so much. Now we're slowly getting this one done, working for, I guess we've been live for like an hour and a half so far. We've mixed some colors and almost got the bread done. It's gonna be a longer one today though, because we are doing, of course, a fancy background, right? just so fun to add like colorful backgrounds. I'm like, oh, maybe we should just like do a white background today, and then I end up wanting to always add a little bit of color. Do you paint with oils at all? Or do you like acrylic painting? I actually used to do a lot of acrylic painting. I liked acrylic painting. But I started with oils like in the last 2 years, I guess. I started oil painting about 2 years ago. And now I've just like fallen in love with oils because they're so nice to work with. There we go. Slowly coming together. I'm going to add, I'm going to grab some of the Indian yellow, so it's like this one. It's a more transparent pigment. It'll add nice bright saturation to what we're working on. And we can just brush that over some of the sections just to add a little bit more color in. It's very transparent, so when your brush gets a little bit dirty with the other color, just wipe it off a little bit on your rag and then go back in with it. Kind of add like an orangish yellow tint to everything. It's really nice to add that extra color. Just lightly dabbing it over the top of some areas to add that orangish color to it. I feel like it just adds a little bit of depth to the painting. Never been able to master oil, but I think it's beautiful. Yeah, it's a little tricky at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's really nice to work with. They're so smooth, and I love how they don't dry as quickly too. I feel like that was my issue every time I did like acrylic painting, was that the paints just dried so quickly, so it was hard to add all of the blending and textures and stuff that I wanted to quick enough. And so yeah, I definitely find that it's nice to work with oils for that reason. Not too bad there. Okay, now I'm gonna add in some of the highlights as well. I'm gonna start with the bluish highlights. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of this. I think, yeah, we decided we were gonna use this because it's got a really nice bluish tint to it. That's what we're gonna be using on the background anyway. Slowly kind of work this into the highlight sections. I left a few of the highlights kind of visible so we don't have to dab it too much in that. Just make sure you wipe off your brush in between like the highlights, because it will get muddy really quickly just with all the other colors. Just adding all of the little highlights on the bread. This will start making the bread look a little bit more, I guess, realistic a little bit. We're not going for like hyper realism or anything here, but I definitely want it to look like red. As many little details as we can add into such a small painting. That's my favorite part about small paintings, is you can kind of just like, you have to be like more selective with what details you add, because you can't add all details because it's just so tiny. And I think it's like a little challenge for me every time I'm doing like mini paintings, and I'm like, how many details can I add into here before it looks crowded or like too much? So it's fun to play around with how many details we can add. Let's see, it's coming together. Here. I'm going to cover up some of those areas with like sesame seeds too. At least we got kind of those base highlights in. Gotta move this one area here. Just keep looking over at your reference photo if you need to see where the highlights kind of are. We know the sun is coming from over on this direction, so trying to have the highlights kind of hit in those areas, and that'll give us that dimension that we want. Just a little bit of a highlight over here. This one doesn't really have highlights. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into this kind of color here. This is more of the like warm white color that we made. Try not to put too much on my brush, but there is a bit more of like, almost like a reflection in this area. So we're going to add that reflection in that bottom section. Just keep dabbing the extra paint off. That kind of added a nice little reflection on the side. I'm going to add a little bit of blue to that reflection as well, because the light is more bluish. I've got this kind of like whitish blue here, so we're going to add a little bit of that blue to it as well. Just dabbing a little bit on, and we'll go back and kind of like touch it up a little bit. Yeah, it's starting to slowly pop now. I feel like once you get like the highlights and all the like little textures in, it like slowly pops, especially when we get the background in too. It's like a trust the process kind of thing. Just tag you on TikTok. Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, I will check that out. Okay, so we're also going to want, I think, a little bit of that glow on the other side, this bluish glow. There's more of that bluish glow kind of over here. We might have to still kind of touch that up after we add the background. It's like there's a little reflection on each of the edges of the bread. Dabbing off my brush in between as well and getting some like fresh color, because we are kind of picking up a little bit of color with our brush as we're going over the edges here. So I don't want to have too much pigment. Okay. There we go. That's adding like a really nice edge to it. I feel like those highlights or those reflections on the side really help with that. Yeah, that's looking better there. And then we're also going to add, wanted a little bit more of that darker texture. I'm gonna clean off my brush a little bit. And then I guess we can add some sesame seeds too. I think I might want to add the sesame seeds like right at the end. That'll be like kind of a fun thing after we're done the background. You can add all the little sesame seeds in. Get the background done first. Then we'll know if we want to add any like more detail to this area. I'm gonna grab the second color down that we mixed here. This is pretty much the burnt sienna. And almost kind of like adding little lime and stuff to here. Adding a little bit of that darker tone back into it. There we go. There was just a few little areas I wanted to add a bit more of that. And then, yeah, I think we'll come back and add a little bit more detail closer to the end. So we'll start on the blue. I'm gonna flip my rag over so we have a clean rag for this section. I'm actually going to maybe clean this brush off quite a bit. So then we can use this for the blue lines because I feel like it's the perfect size. I need to get more of these number 0 brushes, the flat ones. The Seneca brushes. I really like them. I feel like they hold paint really nicely, but they're not like super soft like some of my other brushes. Like I like the Princeton Velvet Touch ones, but they are very soft. They're better for blending. Like this is really nice for adding on like the first kind of layers of paint where you want them a little bit thicker in some areas. And so they have a nice feel to them. Nice springiness to them. Okay. So we're going to go for the blue sections now. I'm going to go with the darker blues. So we're going to go in, I think with this second one from the top. I'm not going to go into the purple quite yet, but I'm going to go into this darker blue for sure. And the darker blue is mostly back here, I would say. So we're just finding out where those lines are right now, and we're just going to define those lines slowly. also this blue one here, a little bit darker blue. I feel like it's so fun to paint fabric as well. There's also this kind of darker blue as well. Goes into lighter blue pretty quickly, but the line on the edge is a darker blue. And I'm adding in this other line as well. I decided I wanted to add in that other line. It's not actually in the reference photo. So you don't think I'm seeing things. Sometimes I like to just add things in myself that aren't in the reference. I kind of just like edited this in Photoshop. I baked the bread and then I like added the background in Photoshop with some free reference photos and some of the like AI tools just to like help. I've been slowly learning how to use Photoshop. I learned it in high school and I feel like it would be nice to take even more courses on it just to like get better at it because I really enjoy using it. It's a fun tool. I'm not going to add all of the texture in the fabric because we are doing a mini painting. I feel like it'd be a little too much to add every single texture to that. So we're just keeping it simple. And then this is going to be like a shadow color because we've got another part of the blue here. So we're just adding the blue up until this point because that's where the shadow is. And then same with over here, just in the corner of this. That's where there's another shadow. And we're going to kind of try to like connect those. There's also quite a bit of darkish blue over in this area. It's got more of the purple color, so I won't put too much. Probably go in with purple there. That looks pretty good. There we go. I think we got a lot of the darker blue in, just a little bit more up here. I really like how the blanket kind of curves around over on this side. So I want to keep that in there. Go. Now we're going to go into this darker purple color. And I'm going to also go into this area now. It's quite dark over on this side. Kind of like stops abruptly around this area. The blanket kind of curves. dark area. And there is also some like darker sections here, so I'll just put a little bit in there. That area is not super dark. This area is. That's definitely like more purple. And here, the shadow. We made some of these other shadow colors as well, so we're going to use some of that for the lighter sections, but I'm going to go with this darker kind of like purpley blue for most of these shadow areas. There's a fold in the sheet over here as well. Once we get those lines in, the shape will take a little bit more form, which is nice. Okay, I'm going to clean off my brush now. Try to be careful because I don't want to damage the bristles of my brushes either. You don't want to like jam the brush in and start rubbing it around. You always go with the bristles. Just make your brushes last a little bit longer. Same with when you're cleaning them, you don't want to like be scrubbing them. You kind of want to like dab them off. Okay, I am going to also do the lighter blue now. I'm gonna go with this light blue. I feel like we kind of made this extra color, but it's very similar to that, so I'm not going to use that. Should be able to use this color and it'd be fine anyway. Okay, and then I'll go into some of this lighter color here. I honestly don't want the fabric too light, so I'm using the darker kind of colors. The other way to make this a little bit easier if you want is to just do a white background. or just like a solid color background and just practice the shadows as well. Could just put like a blue background or something on this if you wanted. It's kind of like personal preference though. I used to not do a lot of backgrounds, but I've just really enjoyed backgrounds in the last year, so I've been doing them more so now. To go in and kind of make sure those shadows are looking good. Just like neglected to put like any lines right here for some reason. Slowly going in now. Looks so good. I love to see the progress every time I pop back. Thanks for popping back here and there. Yeah, we're slowly getting there. We're getting there. I of course picked like a super hard background, so we'll be working at this for the next hour still. It's coming along slowly. I really like that I added the blue in the background. I really do think it brings out the colors in the bread.
I'm gonna go get my
Little
laptop.
Sounds good, hun.
Just check down here if you still want me here.
Yeah, I just like need company today, so I'm like making my husband stay down here and do his work down here. Sometimes I like working alone, but I like to have company. I think that's why I really like doing the live streams, because it's nice when people pop in here and there and like chat while I'm painting, so I'm not like feeling so alone. That's actually why I used to host art parties a lot too with my friends. I need to keep saying I really want to get back into like hosting art parties, and I just like haven't taken the time to like organize them again, but we used to do them frequently. Like once you get into it like every week, it's like, you know, then people kind of like, oh, they know that like the art party is on Wednesday or whatever. That's when we used to do art parties, was on Wednesdays. And then I stopped. Because things got really busy. And then I just haven't picked them back up again. Painting is to get out of your own head. Yeah, exactly. I enjoy that part of painting too. It like helps me kind of, I get that like ADHD hyperfocus over here. And I don't think of anything else. Almost to my own detriment sometimes, because I forget to do like basic need things, like, you know, eat food. I did eat this morning though. I'm like, no, I have to like, I've been making sure that I set timers and stuff on my phone now, so I have like a little timer for like lunchtime and stuff. So then I don't, especially like when our son's not home, like our son will remind us if he's home. He'll be like, I'm hungry. But when I'm alone, it's like I don't listen to my own cues sometimes. And I think that's kind of common for people with ADHD. My psychologist said that's pretty common, so. She called it something and I can't remember the name for it. Yeah, I do the same thing exactly. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Okay. I'm gonna add some of those like lighter blues in now. Got that like lightest blue here. I want to keep it kind of the darker blue like I said though, so I don't want to add too much of this. I actually changed the blue of the fabric like in Photoshop. That's why I brought it into Photoshop, because I wanted the darker blue, because the Jewish flag is more dark blue, and originally this fabric was like a lighter blue. I wanted to get the colors a little bit more accurate. Starting to look like fabric, right? I think once we get the harsh white from the background off of it, it'll kind of come together a little bit better. The white in the paper is like way too white right now. Throws off the vibe a little bit having it so white. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some of those darker tones. I'm gonna start out with just the basic kind of bluish white that we mixed up for the background. I'm gonna actually take a different brush for that. I think I'll use my flat shader brush, number 6 flat shader brush. Is that gonna be too big? I think that should be okay. If it's too big, then we'll choose a different brush. I'm knocking my camera. Trying to make sure I film in between too. Okay. See, look at that. We got that nice color in the background. Add a little bit more titanium white to that. Then at least it's not that like super bright white. How's your laptop setting up going over there?
I haven't set it up much.
Haven't set it up much. My husband got a new laptop, so he's like trying to set it up. We wanted something so then he has like a travel laptop, because he's got like a desktop right now. So we wanted something so he can like travel while he has his like work. We're going next month to his parents' place on the mainland, and so he still has to work, but at least we can like travel if he has a laptop since he works from home. So it'd be nice to be able to like do more traveling since he has the ability to do that. I feel like since he's gotten the work from home job, we like don't ever want it to end. We love the work from home job. It's so nice. So he's like slowly building up skills, and I'm slowly building up skills so we can keep like working from home. Okay. slowly add the color in the middle. Try not to go too fast with this because I don't want to get all the color everywhere. I am glad that it was kind of like a bluish white though. I think it looks really nice. Try not to blend it out too much because I do like a little bit of the texture from the paint. Okay. Just trying to still keep an area for the shadow. Grabbing a little bit more titanium white, putting that on the brush too. Have to add a little bit of like transition color in between these like different white curvy bits, so it doesn't look like it blends in too much. Kind of on the edges here. Okay. Start adding some of that up there. I'm going to be really careful near the edges of the bread because I really don't want to get any orange in there. Someone asked me how I keep the colors from like mixing when I add the background last, and it's just being very careful. I have no tips other than to just be careful. Go very slowly. And if you do get any color on your brush, kind of like that, make sure you take it off right away and then go back in with more color. So it doesn't get muddy all the way around. It's good to always have like a cloth beside you so you can like dip your brush off if you need to, if it gets any of the other colors. Like I just got a little bit of the darker blue on that. Go. Don't want to dip in the wrong color. Almost dipped in that one. the orange on my brush, so I'm trying not to spread that around. There we go. It makes the bread pop a little bit more with the blue. I think I'm gonna need a nap after this. Some lunch and a nap. I have swimming lessons tonight. And honestly, I woke up like super nervous this morning. Like, I know how to swim, but like, I'm just like, I don't know, just something new, right? Taking like swimming lessons as an adult because I just like want to get better at swimming. It just like feels like scary at first, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna like push myself to do it because normally if you're like really scared about something, it's good to just like push yourself to like try and do it, and normally you're just like not that scared afterwards. That's what I find for like everything that I do. It's like you gotta push through that kind of nervous or scary bit. Like, I really don't like driving, but I like force myself to drive sometimes because I'm like, no, I just need to do this. Driving's still kind of scary for me. I really just don't like it. I've never really liked driving, but I can drive and I will drive sometimes because I need to push myself to do it. Me too, but that's just because it's been up since 3 a.m. Yeah. Tired. I need to have a nap. I know, I got up like a few times last night actually. Our son, he got up and started reading at like 1:30 a.m. And I go out there and he's like up reading, and I'm like, I love that you're reading, but you need to go to sleep because you have school tomorrow. And he's like, but this book is so good. And I'm like, oh, it's good he's reading though. It's like hard to stop that, right? But I'm like, you also need sleep, so you need to go to bed. I'm so glad that he likes reading though. That's one thing that I never did enough as a kid because I really struggled with reading. And I'm glad he likes it. Yeah. And then it was really windy last night, and I guess we kept one of our windows open. So you know when you like keep your windows open when it's like windy, and then like all the doors and stuff, they're like shaking if you have them closed. Yeah, that was our doors last night. So I was like, had to close all the windows in the house at like 12 something, and then yeah, like my son woke me up at like 1:30. I feel like as a parent, you just like don't get sleep.
I think it's more like there's more reasons to get less sleep.
There's more reasons, yeah, there's more reasons to get less sleep. And I keep the doors closed in our room because our one cat, she likes to come in like the middle of the night, well, middle of the morning. It's normally around 3 a.m. and she'll lay on my chest, which is super cute and cuddly, and I'm fine with that, until she starts sticking her paw in my mouth because she wants to be pet. And then it wakes me up. I can't get back to sleep because she's sticking her paw in my mouth. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna close you out of the room. So I've been closing the door lately because I'm like, as much as I like her cuddles, like I don't like a paw in my mouth. Because I'm like, where has that cat paw been? all over the floors and probably in a litter box. Like, no thanks. But her cuddles are so cute. I think she ended up helping our son go to bed last night because I closed the door because she wanted to cuddle with me. And then she went straight to our son's room and like cuddled with him. So at least he didn't get back up after 1 a.m. because she was on him. And you know, it's funny because like you'd think that she'd like shove her paw in other people's mouths, but no, just mine. She's never done it to you, has she?
Well, she has. Just
She
not very
has.
often.
Not very often. Okay, so she actually has done it to you.
Yeah, she gets like really close to my face.
But she shoved her paw like in your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay, so
like on my lip, maybe.
Okay, so not right in your mouth like me, but like pretty much.
Not quite.
Don't allow her to do it. She'll be like, "Oh yeah, I can do it to Dad too." I mean, it's not like I allow her to put her paw in my mouth. Like I'm normally like turning my head and trying to like get away from it. What a silly cat she is. She looks so cute right now too. Like she's sitting behind the easel on like a blanket, just curled up in a little ball.
I just noticed our cat is on this shelf over here.
Which one?
Typing. This one.
Oh, Kit Kat's over there?
Yeah.
Oh.
On a
Just
blanket.
sitting on a blanket in the shelf. She doesn't normally go over there. Okay, we're gonna add like different colors now. Because I have this like greenish color. I'm gonna dip my brush in there. I'm not gonna dab off the white paint. I'm just gonna kind of mix it in. Yeah, that should be fine. And we're gonna slowly add this to some of the darker areas here just to add a little bit of that. This is one of the reasons that I like to not add black to my paintings because like look how much nicer that looks having color rather than it like just kind of that like muted gray color. So much nicer to have that like kind of turquoisey color. Or at least I like that anyway. I like to make my paintings a little bit less realistic that way. I just feel like it adds so much depth to the painting. Just a little bit of texture over here. Just adding all of that in. It's a really pretty color I mixed up. I like that. Grab this because I feel like I need to make this go over here a little bit more. Oops. Adding in extra texture. Just bringing that one down a little bit. I feel like adding this green in slowly is quite nice. Slowly adding that dimension into the fabric that we're wanting. Just adding a bit of this to the shadow area. Putting it on the edge here. And that'll kind of define these areas a little bit more if I put it on the edge. Slowly looking like fabric, right? Oh my gosh, see, the blue comes out, it's not that blue. It is not that blue in person. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna post photos for you guys afterwards, so they will be on like my Instagram and stuff, so you can see them. Look how blue it looks on the screen. It looks like I'm like painting it blue. It is not that blue. It's like, yeah, you're painting this bright blue. If anything, it's got more of like a green tinge to it. It's weird that it's making it look so blue. Okay, pretty good. Pretty good. That's pretty good. The fabric is looking good. It looks definitely very blue. We're gonna like look for a webcam this week. I want a new webcam by next week.
Oh my god.
This is like frustrating that the colors are so off. And I've tried so hard to make the colors look good for you guys.
It's just the blues.
Yeah, it's just the blues. But it's like it's frustrating when you're trying to have something that like looks accurate. I was gonna add like an extra fold there, but I don't think I want that fold there anymore, so I'm just gonna cover that back up. Okay, now we're gonna add, I'm gonna use this one, this number 0 flat brush. Just gonna dip it in linseed oil and clean off the tip a little bit. And then I'm gonna use a darker color. Add a little bit of white to it. So I don't want this part super, super dark yet. Like it's not that blue, right? I'm not seeing things. And I'm just gonna take my brush that has white on it and I'm just gonna fix up the edges as I put that shadow in. Taking my brush, fixing up the lines around it as I get that shadow in there. I feel like I'm focusing like extra hard today. Have I been making like super silly faces, guys? As I've been painting. Like sometimes I make really silly faces as I paint. Focus mode. Get into this darker color here. I'm gonna also go into this dark kind of purpley color. I'm gonna add a bit more of those darker parts into the edges here. No, you're fine. I make weird sketch faces and laughs at me. Exactly. Oh man. I make some funny faces when I'm painting. But maybe I'm not making them as much today as I think. The whole part of painting, right? You gotta have the faces to go along with it. At least I'm not like sticking out my tongue. Okay, that shadow's like looking pretty good. you can see the shadow on the white section versus the shadow on the blue section is a little bit different, and I did that on purpose, so there's a little bit of a difference. I'm gonna bring this blue a little bit over a bit more. And I'm gonna bring the shadow to here just a little bit there, just to finish that shadow off. This part's covered up. The shadow yeah, it kind of like stops around here-ish. Sometimes the hard part is figuring out where the shadow stops. There we go. That's making it kind of come together. I'm gonna bring the shadow up into these areas a little bit. So the blanket kind of like curves around here. I want to add a little bit more depth into the blanket there, this kind of darker color. Grab this purple, bring it into that area a bit more. It'll give the illusion that the blanket's kind of curving in that one section. I'm gonna dip my brush off so I can really get that darker color. I've got too much kind of white pigment on the one flat brush. That's my 0 flat brush. Just gonna take that off. I'm gonna go into this darker color. Try to stay away from like some of this lighter color there because I really want to get this deep kind of darker color into the edge. And that'll just add a little bit more depth into this area. Adding that bluish. And I actually could add a little bit more of gonna grab, gonna dip that off with a bit of linseed oil, and I'm also gonna go in to this purpley color again. Gonna add a little bit from the edge here, just because there's a bit of a shadow on that back blanket. Add a bit of this green as well, because it's not like super pronounced. Kind of fades into that slightly lighter green that we made. I'm going to add a little bit more of it actually. I feel like it's adding a nice depth to that area. Just kind of following the line of the bread. Went a little too up in that one section. It's okay, we still have this white. Dip it back in the white. Come back in and fix it up a little bit. by adding all these like little extra shadows, it really does add that extra dimension. Now we still have burnt sienna on this. Take some of this darker burnt sienna color. Just gonna touch up the bread on the edge here. Now we're gonna get to add all of the texture in the bread too, since we pretty much got the background done. Let's step back for a second. I always like stepping back after I finish the background just to see if I wanted to add anything else. Honestly, I'm liking it. I think it looks pretty good. I think the one part that's maybe a little iffy is maybe that one, so I'm gonna fix that. It's always okay to go back and like fix things. That's the nice thing about oil paints too. You can kind of like pretty easily go back while it's still wet and fix the color. I no longer paint when he's home for that reason alone. Oh my gosh. The silly faces. Yeah, my husband's not normally down here with me, but I don't think he makes any comments. Normally he comes down and makes comments about if I've eaten or not. Have you eaten? You're supposed to be eating. I'll know it's lunchtime when he comes down to like eat lunch. I feel like he's bad with that too. Okay. Just touching some of that up. The colors look pretty good though. Go in that darker color again. Kind of greenish blue color that we mixed up. Okay. It's like the one area of the background I'm like, eh. Just making sure all the darks are a nice color. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better. I think I just kind of like angled that a little bit more on this area over here. There we go. Yeah, that fabric part looks a little bit better now. It was looking just like a little off for some reason. Like that part could be fixed a little bit too. Okay, like that. A little bit slightly darker color in here. I think I want to add a little bit of that kind of darker green to this area a bit too, just to add a little bit of illusion of texture, like there's like a darker kind of area there. I feel like it just adds some nice kind of texture into that like kind of greenish color. Okay. I want to add texture into the bread before it gets too late because we've been doing this for a while. I try not to make these like painting sessions run too long. And then we'll add some like cute little sesame seeds and a bit more highlights as we see fit. I'm gonna grab a really small brush for that. I feel like we need even smaller brush, 20/0 brush. These are really, really tiny. I'm going to use that to add the sesame seeds. And yes, we are going to add every single sesame seed by hand. I am going to use the warm white, I think. I'll grab some just fresh warm white. And I think those will be a little bit of titanium white as well. Mix a little bit of warm white and titanium white. That's our sesame seeds. First, before I do that, I'm gonna take my little, I have like a little blender brush here. This is like a 2/0 round. It's from the Princeton Imperial line. They're like super damaged. They get damaged really easily. But I'm just gonna kind of like, almost kind of like make texture by like dabbing these a little bit. And they make good texture brushes after they've been damaged. Always useful. Even those brushes that are so-called damaged are very useful. They just have a different purpose after a while. That's what I've learned. These brushes just taking away a little bit of some of the highlights. Just don't want them as bright. And this is almost like, it's kind of blending it, but it's like adding texture at the same time, if that makes sense. Like adding little bits of texture with this brush, and it's kind of like it's blending it out a little bit just so the colors aren't as harsh and they like blend together a little bit nicer. Kind of fixing up some of the edges too. we step back, that helped it like blend a little bit before we put those sesame seeds on. Because I realized it wasn't like blended exactly how I wanted it. Yeah, and I think the dark areas are not too bad. We could add a little bit more darkness into some of those areas. I like to use my number 10/0 brush. I go back into that dark color. We'll just add some of those darker areas again, right in the creases. Because we're looking at the value in these areas, which is the lights and darks, and in order to make it look nice, you really want your darks to be pretty accurate, and if they're too light, then the other colors just like won't look as nice. So this will help. You'll see this will help like make it pop a little bit, and you get those darks a little bit more accurate. Really starts to kind of pop out a little bit. And I'm also going to take this and create a little bit of texture on the top, because I feel like there's like almost like little lines from my brush, because I was brushing the date. The date syrup on it, and it kind of almost left like little lines of like date syrup. And so we could add that in with this like little liner brush here. As we're adding those darker areas. You don't have to add the super dark lines everywhere, just mostly I'm trying to keep the darkest lines kind of on this side since that's the shadow area. And as I go into the other side, I'm not making them as dark. There you go, that's adding a nice texture now. And then we can start adding like sesame seeds. Soon we can add sesame seeds. I'm just gonna keep standing back and looking to see if there's any little spots that we missed.